Hello, my name is Haley Lindley, and this is my concept presentation. The concept I chose for this presentation is nonverbal communication, as I found it extremely valuable to my own life in a number of ways. But I'll get to that in a minute. First, I want to lay out what nonverbal communication actually is and what it practically looks like. In a basic definition, nonverbal communication is the act of conveying information, feelings, etc., without the use of words. So that's utilizing things such as body and movement and emotions to do the talking for you to convey attitude and feelings. Nonverbal communication has many forms, some being bound by culture, for example, certain hand gestures, distance between one another, and eye contact, or lack of it, all play different roles between cultures. Then there's universal nonverbals, such as smiling, laughing, displeasure, and sour expressions. Most commonly, though, and the way I recognize it, nonverbal communication is the mostly relational, which defines the relationships I have with others, and here are some ways these are identified. Kinesics has to do with our body and position and motion. So, our body orientation and posture say a lot. Eye contact follows the same idea and communicates either dominance or submission, just as our orientation and posture does. Our pupils themselves actually tell a lot more too, as they grow larger in proportion to the degree of interest in something or someone, like a boyfriend to his girlfriend. Next, we have touch, which signals a variety of different relationships. Touch can signal a professional relationship like a doctor's appointment. Next, we have a social interaction, such as a polite handshake of people meeting for the first time. A clear friendship can be communicated from the two people you see hugging. Kissing defines a more intimate relationship, indicating a couple of some sort. Then finally, there's aggression, where you might see slaps or shoving. One final type of nonverbal communication I will mention is something called proxemics, which is the use of space. This use of space is actually categorized in and defined in 4 different ways. The first being intimate, which is a distance of skin contact to 18 inches. Next, there is a personal, which is 18 inches to 4 feet. Social is 4 to 12 feet, and public, which is outward from 12 feet of distance or space. An observation I want to make on these types of nonverbal communication is something I'm going to call the personal and the obvious. The personal is being body and movement and face and eyes, whereas the obvious is touch and space. The reason I categorize these types this way is because I think these feelings and attitudes can only be identified personally, whereas something like touch can be very obvious to others observing. After understanding this concept for myself, I found it very valuable to my life as it allowed me to identify so much about myself and my relationships. I was able to learn the unintentional messages I was giving off with my nonverbal cues, the reason I intentionally gave off the certain cues, and how it can actually be utilized positively. Another reason I found nonverbal communication so valuable, and another reason I chose it, is because of the way it was able to not only change but further my understanding in this course. Prior to learning this concept, nonverbal communication seemed like such a negative thing in my relationships, especially with my boyfriend. But that's only because I didn't have a full awareness and understanding of it, and its uses because I only saw it as a way of sending contradicting messages. For example, one of the cheesy things I say to my boyfriend is that he has such kind eyes and all of his emotions can be told through his eyes. When he is upset, it often comes out in anger and frustration, resulting in a lack of eye contact or a change in his kind eyes. So when I get a simple feeling that something may be off, or after we've had an argument and I ask him about it, he often says, "I'm fine," or "nothing's wrong," despite what he may be truly feeling. He is telling me one thing with his words, but non-verbally saying another with his eye contact, or lack thereof. Another example of this was with my best friend. After church, she will often come and hang out with my boyfriend, his family, and I. We'll all grab lunch and make a day of it, just playing cards or relaxing. On this specific Sunday, my boyfriend and I had plans of our own, and so I dropped her off at home following the end of service. When she realized where we were driving, her whole attitude changed and she stayed silent. Once arriving at her house, she got out of my car, said bye, and shut the door just like that. For reference, she always said it was okay to give her the boot when my boyfriend and I wanted time together, and anytime I drop her off, she always says, "I love you, bye, drive safe," waving and smiling as she steps out of the car. This really confused me as she seemed truly upset about something she said was okay, and I didn't get the same loving farewell as usual. This resulted in both my boyfriend and I extremely confused, wondering what went wrong. For so long, I attached nonverbal communication to negative interactions like these that I even sent these contradicting messages myself. One instance in particular was with my boyfriend as well, where I also denied anything was wrong despite me being visibly upset. A majority of my feelings get expressed through tears, but my lack of eye contact and body orientation away from him were obvious signs that I wasn't okay. I often feel very intense emotions that I can't always make sense of, so saying I'm fine with tears in my eyes is my way of pushing it off and attempting to move past the situation. Through these 3 examples, I have learned that this never works, and nonverbal cues often speak volumes. With the information I learned about this concept, I was able to understand that nonverbals are not always negative. Nonverbal communication is simply another way of communication. This class, and specifically this lesson on nonverbal communication, has allowed me to learn and identify the different types of communicators around me as well. I found this most valuable with my boyfriend too, as this has allowed me to overcome many potential confrontations. So much can be said through nonverbal cues, and I have learned how to utilize that in our relationship to allow for growth. My boyfriend's love language is physical touch, and he always wants hugs, head scratches, back scratches, you name it. I'll admit that this took me a while to understand about him, but it has made all the difference. We would often have fights about not feeling loved or wanted, and I had no clue why he would even say that, as I verbally told him how much I loved and appreciated him. After understanding his love language, also understanding nonverbal communication became vital for me. I wanted to properly communicate to him how much he was loved. Now that I am able to utilize body orientation, eye contact, touch, and intimate space, my love for him is clear and undeniable. Nonverbal communication has contributed greatly to the growth and understanding of my current relationships, and a skill I have clearly been able to practically employ in my daily life. Thank you for listening to my speech.